Located in this forest are the remains of a tragedy that claimed nearly 100 lives and has left the area eerie and perhaps even haunted.
Hi, I'm Drew, and that's Bethany.
We're in Wellington to explore a section of the Great Northern Railway that now sits abandoned after a tragic event.
Join us as we embark on the Iron Goat Trail and uncover some of the history hidden here for 100 years.
It's the trail of the Wellington Disaster, coming up on Oddity Odysseys. So this is one of the prettiest areas I've ever seen in person. Lush, green, I think I saw Bigfoot. So with the Iron Goat Trail, there are 3 different trailheads that you can start from. But you do need a day pass. They have them at Shell, Chevron, and some local mom and pop shops. Pick one up before you get there and you won't have any problem parking. Passing by a lot of train tracks on the side too.
Yeah, this is the new rail. Takes a slightly different route than the one we're here to see today.
Today we have quite the journey ahead of us. From the Seattle area, we're taking Route 522 about 23 miles north into Monroe. We'll continue another 50 miles east on Route 2 through the mountains to our first stop at the Iron Goat Trailhead. Then we'll continue east on Route 2 to an easy-to-miss left turn onto Ty Road. From there, we'll follow signs down the mountain to our second destination, the Wellington Trailhead. This area is beautiful, but unfortunately is tainted by what happened here 100 years ago.
Founded by James J. Hill in 1889, the Great Northern Railway was a transcontinental railroad that ran from St. Paul, Minnesota to Seattle, Washington. The route through the Wellington area was considered an engineering marvel.
The history of the Wellington avalanche disaster is sprinkled all over this region, but it all started over 100 years ago when on February 23rd, 1910, 2 trains, number 25, which carried passengers, and number 27, which carried mail, left the Spokane area to cross the Cascade Mountains.
This region doesn't seem suitable for a rail line.
It isn't, and it wasn't. Oh, we're gonna go up in the caboose here.
Yeah.
Now, as you can see, there are steep grades and sharp curves everywhere. Not a great place to lay tracks.
Yep.
But James Hill and his team did it anyway. However, that stretch of tracks became known as the weakest link of the Great Northern Railway.
Anybody home?
Not a lot to see inside. Minimal furniture.
Yeah, just some wood sitting there, it looks like.
Anyway, there's a lot more to check out of the Wellington avalanche disaster.
All right.
We climbed up a very steep hill. And if our calculations are correct, then that means that the tunnel is right there.
Oh, you
Which
calculated correctly.
Woo!
All right.
This was worth the steep climb.
Look at that, 1914. So this tunnel was built after the avalanche.
And here you can see the wall.
Yeah.
But this is what we're really interested in. And it's wide open.
And big.
Huge.
This is a large tunnel.
Windy Point Tunnel. Great Northern trains crossing the Cascades between 1892 and 1913. Remember, the avalanche happened in 1810. Had to slow to a crawl as they curved around the rocky promontory of Windy Point. The curve was so sharp that trains might derail if they exceeded 5 miles per hour. Passengers on one side looked out on a cliff wall, which we saw climbing up. Those on the other looked down a sheer drop-off to the Ty River. Unfortunately, that sheer drop-off is where the avalanche came through and derailed the train.
Terrifying.
It's a 1/4-mile tunnel. Okay. It looks a lot deeper.
Well, it's hard to tell because it is on a curve.
Yeah.
Look at this, I wanted to point this out too.
Oh.
There's a piece of the, I guess, concrete that's fallen away, and you can see what looks like giant wood timbers standing vertically about a foot apart.
You can see the formation.
Yeah, and I guess that's what makes up the bones of this tunnel. And then they poured concrete over it. That is amazing. And you can see some big pieces of it down here that have splintered off and fallen apart. Unbelievable. All right, off to our second location. Oh, look at this quaint little bridge. Little truss bridge out here over the Ty River. And from here it should be pretty easy to get to Wellington. Well, we overshot the mark a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know where we are anymore.
Gotta go back and see if we can find Ty Road. It's literally a turn off of Route 2. There it is.
Oh yeah, no wonder we missed that. Wellington Trailhead.
Boom.
Uh-oh, we're road ahead. Okay, this isn't too bad.
Also, we're in a rental, so it doesn't matter.
Here we go. Don't park right next to these people, that's awkward.
park as far away from them as I can.
Nice and calm today.
I know, it's nice and quiet.
So far. Wonder how far we'll get in before we start to see some interesting stuff.
You know, I don't think it's too far.
Oh, look.
What?
Super Mario mushrooms.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, the yellow one too.
That was a wonderful rendition of the Mario song.
You know, we've been in the woods for too long. I'm tired. It started as a temporary delay. Snow began to fall, causing the two trains to stall on the tracks at the Cascade Tunnel system.
The snow continued as nighttime fell. From train 25, passenger Ned Topping wrote, "I expected to reach Seattle this AM. Here I am at the summit of the Cascades, snowed in since 6:30 this morning. Such a snow you never saw."
We are approaching what we believe to be the first Cascade Tunnel in the woods. You can hear water over there. It's very tranquil.
Yeah.
You can see it off in the distance.
Oh, there it is, through the trees.
Now, it used to be you could walk all the way through, and now it's closed off. But we're just gonna see how close we can get. Look at these pillars. So once the blizzard struck, it lasted for 9 days, and the passenger train would have been stuck in this area, the Cascade Tunnel system.
Whoa, that must have been terrifying to wake up one morning and find yourself snowed in on a train.
Yes, that would be terrifying. Although letters and telegrams that came from the passenger train that were written during that time showed that the passengers were a little unnerved, but they had no idea what was about to happen. The blizzard continued for 9 straight days. The crew worked feverishly in the biting cold and falling snow to clear the tracks. Eventually, the trains were able to move through the Cascade Tunnel.
Cascade Tunnel.
The site of the delay of the passenger train.
Right.
Not the tragedy, just the delay.
Yeah. Oh, look up there, you can see where the letters spelled out Cascade.
The original sign.
Very neat. Am I helping you?
Yeah. If I die, this is all your fault.
There you go. You got it. This is muddy too, but
Yeah, I may not go all the way back there, but we can at least see. Can you see inside? How deep does it go?
there's rocks all over the ground.
This is where Drew gets stuck in the tunnel because I'm not following him this far.
All right, let's move on to our next item of interest. All concrete snow shed. That'll be our next stop. So got stuck in the tunnel, and we're gonna head west. The conditions for the crew trying to get the train unstuck were absolutely horrific. It was freezing, the equipment was unstable, and they were only making pennies.
The Seattle Times reported, "So fierce is the storm that the attempts of this army of workmen, aided by all the available snow-fighting machinery on the division, are futile."
Yet, they still managed to get the trains moving again.
Yeah, they eventually shoveled enough snow to get the train moving westward toward Wellington, but that's where the situation got worse. Whoa, that came out of nowhere. Look at this.
What did you find? Oh my gosh.
Oh, unbelievable. So this is the snow shed.
I have to say, that looks very creepy.
It's a little ominous, and it very much sneaks up on you with the trees covering it.
Look how far down that goes. The temporary stall turned into a deadly situation when the passenger train, once again, became blocked by the storm near the small railway town of Wellington. Only this time, the snow shovelers couldn't keep up. The trains were once again stranded, impossible to reach except by foot, and no help was coming. At the time, Wellington had a rotating population of about 100 people. It was mostly a small railroad town that workers called the town at the end of the world. Unfortunately, what happened there put it on the map for an entirely different reason.
In the early morning hours of March 1st, 1910, 125 people slept in the stranded train cars. Amid warming temperatures and a thunderstorm, a 10-foot-high, half-mile-wide slab of snow covering the mountains broke loose and rushed toward the trains. The train was swept away by the avalanche, destroying everything in its path. Those who survived later recounted that evening as a night of horror and reddened snow.
The events of the Wellington disaster took decades to sift through, and afterwards the Great Northern Railway was hung up in court, dealing with lawsuits and all sorts of stuff.
And they did their best to make sure nothing like that ever happened again.
That's right, and this snow shed is a result of that effort. So this was put in after the avalanche to prevent any snowfall from, again, covering a train on these tracks.
Kind of cold in here.
It does get chilly when you're inside.
That kind of fits with the ambiance and what we're talking about. But this is an all concrete snow shed. And due to how much it cost, this was the only one that was built for the Great Northern. And now it's just left here in ruins. Kind of a reminder of 100 years ago. How far down do you think we've walked?
I don't know, but it does seem like these go on forever. I wanted to stop for a minute and walk out onto this bridge. It looks like some kind of an observation platform.
A little detour. Oh, this is cool.
Ooh, back out into the sun. Can warm up for just a minute.
And there are a couple of benches and markers, it looks like.
Okay, so this is where the disaster happened. This is where the train rolled down the hill. This is the hillside. And met its demise down there. Most of the major pieces of wreckage were collected by April 22nd, 1910. Eventually, news of the tragedy reached the railway's superintendent, James Henry O'Neill, who was busy organizing a rescue party. Sadly, he'd have to change his plans to account for digging people out of the snow after the avalanche.
What really struck me about the Wellington disaster is that they were all together for about 9 days on the train. And during that time, a lot of them became friends. They played cards, they shared food. There were a lot of infants and toddlers on the train that fellow passengers started taking care of and became surrogate aunts and uncles too. So it was even more horrific that that night you weren't just seeing other human beings perish, you were seeing your friends perish. The Wellington depot quickly filled with body bags. News reports were choppy. Information on the victims and those still alive was scarce. The weather and wreckage made it difficult to gather victims. Reportedly, 96 people lost their lives that night, making it America's deadliest avalanche. The last body, the body of brakeman Archibald McDonald, wasn't pulled until July of that year.
And the tragedy rippled through the area for a long time.
It did, and salvage efforts went on for months. Eventually, Wellington became abandoned, and they renamed the area Ty to kind of sweep away what happened that night under the rug.
Looks like we've come to the end of the snow sheds, although it may not have always been the end of the snow sheds. But if you look up here, you can see that it's collapsed at this end. There's literally pieces of rock hanging from the rebar. And supposedly this was one of the first uses of rebar in American construction.
And it's still there.
Yeah.
On January 12, 1929, the Great Northern Railway dedicated their new Cascade Tunnel. At 7.79 miles in length and costing $25 million, the tunnel is strong enough to withstand the harshest winters, and it's still in use today.
It's unknown exactly how many lives were lost in the Wellington disaster. Some historians say it may be more than the 96 reported. Some hikers who traverse the area have said they've heard the echoes of voices warning them to be safe while traveling in these woods.
If you're interested in hiking the Iron Goat Trail, be sure to plan accordingly, check the weather, and come prepared.
For those who want to learn more about the Wellington disaster, we highly recommend the book, The White Cascade. It's a wonderful resource that we've linked to below. Also, you can check out our Patreon page for our extended adventure along the Iron Goat Trail. Links are in the description.
Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one.
So basically, trains coming from the tunnel and moving through town would automatically be routed to the runaway track unless the train engineer signaled and whistled that all was okay.
And I think this is the runaway track right here.
Okay, he found it. Are you stuck?
Maybe.
Do you need a signal with the whistle that all is okay?
Yes, please.
Oh, it says if there's no signal, the train comes crashing down.
I don't see the train.